What's up, freaks and geeks? It 8FX, and welcome back to the OCD Dex Challenge. A couple of months ago, I began working on catching every possible obtainable non-shiny Pokemon before Scarlet and Violet drop later this year. I've been working hard on this series behind the scenes, and today we're going to be jumping into the second generation of Pokemon in the Johto region. If you haven't seen any of my OCD Dex videos before, I've included a playlist in the top right and the description down below that contains all the previous videos if you're interested. That being said, the rules are pretty straightforward. The goal at the end of the challenge is to catch every possible obtainable Pokemon, so that means all variations of a Pokemon that remain undisturbed in storage are required for the challenge. This includes a living dex, alternate forms such as Lycanroc or Meteor, and gender variants like Pyroar. But don't worry, we're not doing Spinda. I mention undisturbed in storage as some Pokemon like Castform revert back to their normal form once stored, so those won't count. And for every Pokemon we include, we also have its shiny counterpart. But right now, we're focused on catching every possible non-shiny before Gen 9 comes out, so we can focus on the new games and shiny hunting on stream. All Pokemon caught should have the same original trainer name across all generations, with the exceptions of events or gifts. Event Pokemon are not required, but some mythicals are still only obtainable through distributions. All Pokemon must be caught in their native region or game that the Pokemon was originally introduced in, with the exception of shiny Pokemon. Those can be from any games. I try to split the work between the versions of games so that we aren't playing through one specifically for version exclusives, and to make it a bit more exciting for you and more difficult for me. Currently, there are 2,625 Pokemon in the OCD Dex Challenge, and while we have gotten a teaser and a full trailer for Gen 9, we aren't going to update the count until those games fully release. If you want to take on the challenge yourself, there's a spreadsheet in the description down below so you can keep track of your own collection. But how am I doing so far? When we finished the Kanto region, our total was at 240, and we successfully captured every non-shiny Generation 1 Pokemon. So what are we looking to add to the collection during our time in Johto? We'll start off with the 100 new Pokemon introduced in Johto. After that, we've got 28 forms of Unknown, one for each letter of the alphabet, plus exclamation point and question mark. These two weren't introduced until Gen 3, so while they are part of Gen 2, we won't be able to grab them just yet, so keep that in mind. Lastly, we have a good amount of gender variants. We won't be able to see the differences in-game because they weren't added until Generation 4, but once everything is transferred into Home, we'll be able to see what makes them different. There's a total of 44 gender variants in Johto, which makes our non-shiny total 172 Pokemon. Out of those, we have one Pokemon which we didn't include in our initial count of the collection, being the mythical Celebi. We're playing the Virtual Console versions of Gold, Silver, and Crystal as they are the easiest Gen 2 games to transfer to Bank and then Home. But in Virtual Console Crystal, they added the GS Ball event, which allows the player to encounter Celebi. The best part is, this encounter isn't shiny locked, which means we can hunt for a legit shiny mythical Pokemon. So I decided to add an event Celebi to our non-shiny count so we could shiny hunt a Celebi on stream down the road. Before we get into the video, I would greatly appreciate it if you took the time to share this video or series with somebody, as these videos take a lot of time to make. Lastly, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already to keep up to date with this series, as well as any of my other content. And with all of that done, let's get into the OCD Dex Challenge. We begin the games by meeting up with Professor Elm in New Barktown to get our very first Pokemon. In Gold we get Chikorita, Silver we get Cyndaquil, and in Crystal we get Totodile, immediately adding 3 Pokemon to our count. Just don't forget when they evolve, the count won't change. Professor Elm sends us off on a quest to pick up something from his friend Mr. Pokemon. After grabbing the mystery egg and talking to Professor Oak, we meet our rival in Cherry Grove City on the way back home. After returning to Professor Elm's lab, we can name our rivals, which I named after my mods Xeno and Kid again for Gold and Silver, and Shane and Crystal. The professor's assistant gives us some Pokeballs, and we can officially begin our challenge. We start off in Silver, catching ourselves a Sentret for each game. Both Gold and Crystal are currently at nighttime to find some early extra captures, so we just traded with ourselves to save time. While Sentret's stats are not great by any means, it's a good early game HM user until we can flesh our team out a bit more. Although we caught 3 of them, only 1 counts for the collection since it doesn't have any gender variants. We also grab a Pidgey to help us with our Gold playthrough. Unfortunately, Chikorita is the worst of the 3 starters, and on top of that is at a type disadvantage for the first gym. Having Pidgey gives us a flyer for later as well. It's a very fast and strong team member in Pidgeot down the road. If you're playing through the original games and not Heart Gold Soul Silver, do yourself a favor and get one for each game. It's a great party member. After helping out the other games, Silver heads up to Violet City, adding 6 Ladybug to our collection. A living dex entry and gender variants for both Ladybug and Ledian. We'll add 3 to the count for now, and the others once they evolve. In the meantime, Gold was also heading off to Violet City, leveling up our Chikorita and new Pidgey to take on Faulkner. Along the way, we grabbed ourselves a Hoot Hoot and a Spinarak since we have our game set tonight. While both Gold and Silver have already reached Violet City, Crystal is staying behind to take on the first big hunt of the game, a 1% Dunsparce in the Dark Cave. While it is one of the 7 swarm Pokemon in these games, that doesn't really help our odds as you have to fight a specific trainer and just wait for them to eventually call you, and that can take literal days. So the easiest hard thing to do is just to start searching now. We don't have a lot of Pokeballs, but it has a pretty high catch rate, so it shouldn't be too... A crit? We can't catch it if we kill a Totodile. Alright, well that took an extra 25 minutes to find a second one. Let's not knock this one out, please. You know what? I'm not even going to risk it. We just throw a Pokeball here and hope for the best. There we go. All 3 games take on Falconer with relative ease, and after collecting our first badge, we get a call from Professor Elm, asking us to meet with one of his assistants in the Pokemon Center. They give us the mystery egg and ask us to carry it around until it hatches. We'll need this for the collection, but we won't add anything until it actually hatches. Silver heads south down Route 33 towards Azalea Town and catches a Hoppip and a Mareep on the way. After making a few additions to the count, we meet a man named Kurt who is known for crafting special Pokeballs. But before he gets back to work, he asks us to help him take on Team Rocket in the Slowpoke well. And by help, he means do it all for him, because he can't even take on a ladder, much less Team Rocket. After clearing out the well, Kurt brings us back to Azalea Town, and we can start taking on the next gym challenge, Bugsy. The fight isn't too difficult since our team is at a good level, and 2 of the games have a strong type advantage with Quilava and Pidgey. We evolve our Pidgey really quick before moving on, since we're 1 level away and our rival is waiting for us at the city gates. After defeating them, we head into Elix Forest, where we help a young man wrangle up his boss's Farfetch'd, and are given the HM for Cut as a reward. We also make sure to speak with the trainer in the middle of the forest to grab the TM for Headbutt, since we'll need to hunt some special Pokemon a bit later. Crystal runs into a special surprise while trying to herd the Farfetch'd back to the trainer, though. Yep, that's right. A full odds Gen 2 Shiny Weedle. Unfortunately, I didn't record any audio while playing through these games, but you'll have to trust me when I say I audibly gasped in excitement because of how rare this find is. Gen 2 is the first game to include shiny Pokemon and was based off of stats, and the odds were 1 in 8,192 of finding one in the wild. Here's a little visual aid for how ridiculously small of a chance that is. We already have a shiny Kakuna from Let's Go, so I wanted to evolve this up into a Beedrill. So I decided to name it Bunt, after the Beedrill from the Game Grumps Fire Red playthrough, which, if you haven't seen, definitely recommend. Once Crystal gets to the forest, they stop to grab 2 Snubbull from Route 34 and collect the odd egg from the daycare center. This egg can help us save a little bit of time in our run by taking care of one of the baby Pokemon introduced in this generation, so we need to hatch it as soon as we can so we don't needlessly catch something twice. All 3 games take on the infamous Whitney, but manage to win on each of their first encounters. After making the poor kid cry, she finally gives us our 3rd badge, allowing us to use Strength in the wild. We grab our bike before leaving the city and talk to the family in the flower shop to get ourselves a squirt bottle to clear the blocked path to Ecruteak. Gold and Silver use a little skip from Johnstone where we buy an Abra from the game corner and teleport back to Violet City because we've been healing with only items to skip Route 35, 36, and National Park. Crystal, on the other hand, has to talk with somebody in front of the tree before we can move on. On the way back to the flower shop, our mystery egg hatched into a Togepi. Since we'll be evolving this one, we won't update the count just yet. After watering the tree, all 3 games take on Sudowoodo. Sudowoodo does have gender variants, with the branch on its head being smaller or larger depending on if it's male or female, so we need to make sure we get at least 1 of each and 1 living dex entry. We actually got really lucky and found the 3 we needed in the first go. We make sure to grab Rock Smash from the guy right by the blocked path so we can release the legendary dogs in the next town. Silver grabs a Stantler on Route 37 on the way into Ecruteak. Before moving on, Gold goes down to Route 35 to take on the second 1% hunt of the run, Yanma. Just like Dunsparce, it's a swarm Pokemon, but since they are so randomized, there really isn't a time to take on this hunt that's better than any other, so we just take it on as soon as we can. It only takes a couple of minutes before we find one, as well as a Ditto, which will help us out later in the games to breed for certain Pokemon. We stop by the Violet City Pokemon Center to heal up and hatch our Togepi. This one does go towards the count. Both Gold and Silver go to the Burn Tower to unlock the roaming legendary dogs using our new Sudowoodo's Rock Smash. It's important to unlock them as soon as possible so we can counter them in the wild at least once for future hunting. With that knocked out, we can take on our next gym leader, Morty. While his team can definitely bring the cheese, it's not too difficult if you switch out your Pokemon for Curse and stock up on Awakenings ahead of time to break his Hypnosis Dream Eater combo. Typically, using an item burns your turn, but it works out as an even trade as he almost always uses Dream Eater after you're slept. Once we defeat him, we head west towards Route 38 where Gold immediately runs into Entei. Well, that saves some time for sure. We spend a couple more minutes on the route and grab ourselves a Miltank. This is where Crystal's storyline starts to differentiate from Gold and Silver. When we get to the Burn Tower, we meet Yucine, fight our rival, and fall into a hole where we have our first encounter with Suicune, which will make our new friend super jealous later. Oh, or now. Should we tell him? After spamming Bite on Morty's entire gym, we get our 4th badge and evolve our Croconaw into a Feraligatr and our Sentret into a Furret. After defeating Morty, Silver heads back to Goldenrod where we talk to Bill and receive a gift Eevee. It's important to grab this as soon as we can since it starts with a base friendship of 70 and we have 2 friendship-based evolutions which we need to take care of. In order to get them to evolve, we need to have our friendship at 220, which can take a lot of time, but it's okay. We've got a lot of game left to go. We should be able to evolve them just by staying in the party for the rest of the playthrough. Once we arrive at Olivine City, we speak to a sailor in a restaurant who gives us the HM for strength, which will come in handy soon. From there, we can take care of the lighthouse quest, which we need to do to take on the next 2 gyms. The Ampharos that lights the tower is sick, and the city's gym leader Jasmine is tending to it and won't leave until it's healed. She tells us of a pharmacy in Cyanwood, a small island not far from here. We surf to Cyanwood, avoiding as many trainers as we can, and Gold finds a version-exclusive Mantine to add to the collection. Before leaving, Crystal uses Rock Smash to find a Shuckle on Route 40. Once we've arrived at Cyanwood, we meet Suicune again, and Yucine decides he wants to battle us to prove to Suicune that he's in fact not the main character. After that embarrassment, we defeat the next gym leader, Chuck, and receive the HM for Fly from his wife, which makes our Pidgeotto absolutely busted for the rest of the run. Before we leave, we stop by the pharmacy and get the secret potion to help the Ampharos at the lighthouse. With the Ampharos healed back up, Jasmine returns to her gym and we get our 6th badge. Our Quilava also evolved into a Typhlosion from the fight. Crystal heads east towards Mahogany Town while Gold makes a stop in Goldenrod to pick up their own Eevee. Inside Mount Mortar, we catch 2 Marill since we can't find a Zoomerl in the wild and a Golbat that we catch with a Friend Ball. This will save us a lot of time, as Pokemon caught in a Friend Ball have their base friendship set to 200 instead of 70. On the way to the Lake of Rage, Gold catches a good amount of Pokemon on Route 43, adding a Noctowl, 2 Flaffy, and 3 Girafarig to the count. Once we arrive at the lake, we catch our second shiny of the game, a mysterious red Gyarados. I won't be adding this to the count since it's a static encounter, but after adding them to the team, we pick up the red scale for an important item as well as story progression. Crystal takes a short detour to trade our red scale for the XP share as quickly as we can, as well as taking on a hunt that's a bit out of the way otherwise. Now that we can surf, we can find Poliwhirl on Route 30 to later evolve into Politoed. We catch 3 of them for the living dex and gender variants, but we won't update the count until they've evolved. While hunting, our odd egg finally hatched into an Igglybuff. Not the ideal hatch to save time, but 1 less encounter nonetheless. Gold and Crystal meet up with Lance, who assaults a man, and start taking on the Team Rocket questline. Thanks to our new XP share, our second Marill evolves into an Azumarill while taking on the Rocket Underground. Silver, in the meantime, is taking on a completely different challenge: headbutt hunting. There are a handful of Pokemon that can only be found by using the move Headbutt on small trees in the overworld. This isn't too bad when it comes to Pokemon like Aipom, which are in almost all of the tree's spawn pools, but it becomes quite a chore for Pokemon like Pineco and Heracross, especially when we remember that Heracross has gender variants, so we need 3 of them. These 2 Pokemon are in what's called special trees. They're randomly determined based on your trainer ID and a few other bits of data, which is cool in theory, until you realize that the special trees for Heracross and Pineco have the exact same spawn pool as the regular trees around them, so we have no way of knowing if it's a regular or special until we find one. On top of that, Pineco learns Self-Destruct at level 8, and Heracross is a runaway Pokemon, which means each turn it has a small percentage of a chance to just run away. Because that's fun, I guess. Silver is going to have their hands full for a bit, so let's see what's going on with Team Rocket. After clearing the underground, Lance finds out that the machine that is transmitting the radio signal is being powered by 6 electrodes, and we need to knock them out in order to help the Pokemon at the Lake of Rage, instead of just, capturing them or asking them to move. Anyways, Lance gives us the HM for Whirlpool, which we will need to use once in the entire playthrough. The idea was cool, but forcing an HM slot for it and barely using it kind of sucks. Gold and Crystal defeated Price and took down Team Rocket at the Goldenrod radio tower, during which our Flaffy evolved into Ampharos and Bayleaf to Meganium. Gold catches a Swinub on the ice path to help us with the upcoming Dragon Gym, but doesn't even need it as Pidgeot and Ampharos carry us to victory. But hey, it's 1 less encounter for later. Silver finally finds the special trees and wraps up headbutt hunting with 3 Aipom, 2 Pineco, and 3 Heracross, adding 7 Pokemon to the count, since we still need to evolve one of the Pineco. Which doesn't take too long as we give it the XP share and catch up with the other games. We also get our 3 Ladybug to evolve into Ledian on the way to Blackthorn. We grab 3 Swinub on the ice path to later evolve into Piloswine and its gender variants. We also managed to catch a Delibird in our first Pokeball, which is huge since it's another runaway Pokemon. This encounter just saved us a bunch of time. Before we leave Ice Path, we find ourselves a Jinx, which we'll need to breed later for another baby Pokemon. Now that we have the fly location for Blackthorn, we take a quick detour we forgot about earlier to return to Slowpoke Well for a Slowpoke that will be evolving into Slowking. Thanks to the XP share, Crystal is able to get a few evolutions knocked out as well, getting our Snubbull to evolve into Granbull and Golbat to Crobat during our Goldenrod radio tower. This is where the Crystal storyline kicks back in. We receive the Clear Bell from the director, which allows us to visit the Tin Tower, and after defeating the 3 sages, take Suicune head on. Normally, I'd say go ahead and save this for later so you can use the Master Ball, but since Virtual Console Crystal has the Celebi event available and not shiny locked, I wanted to save my Master Ball for a shiny Celebi hunt. So we'll probably be here a while. Or not. Alright then, add Suicune to the count. With all 3 games caught back up, Crystal snags 3 Gligar, Silver catches a Phanpy and a Skarmory, and Gold grabs 3 Wobbuffet and a Teddiursa, all outside of Blackthorn. While Crystal heads off to Victory Road to collect 3 Onix and take on the Elite Four, Gold and Silver have a couple of chores to do. Gold heads back to Ecruteak to find a Magmar in the Burn Tower for future breeding, then east to Mount Mortar to find Black Belt Kyo, who gives us a Tyrogue after defeating him in battle. We'll be evolving this one, so we won't count it just yet. We then use our Rainbow Wing we got back at the radio tower to take on the first box legendary, Ho-Oh. We're saving our Master Ball for the legendary dog we find since they flee after 1 turn, so this is going to take a while. With all 8 badges collected, Silver meets up with Professor Elm, who gives us the Master Ball. We aren't using it just yet, but it's smart to grab it as soon as we can. Since we don't need to take on the Elite Four in this version, we head to the Ruins of Alph and begin completing all of the puzzles to work on completing the unknown alphabet. By surfing through Union Cave, we reach a small patch of grass where we can capture a Smeargle and 4 Natu. After about an hour and an unknown number of Pokeballs, get it? We finish the unknown alphabet and are rewarded with a printer. Anyways, we then fly to Olivine and surf to the Whirl Islands where we grab a Seadra for later and the legendary Lugia. With both birds finally caught, Crystal has already become the league champion and is blowing through the Kanto storyline, where they capture 4 Houndour on Route 7, an Electabuzz on Route 10, and finally evolved our Togepi into Togetic. Gold backtracks to Route 32, where we grab 3 Wooper in the grass and 3 Quagsire by surfing. We board the SS Aqua and our Eevee evolves on the way to Kanto. While we could spend some time going over the Kanto storyline, it's only slightly different from what we just went through in Let's Go, so we're just going to focus on the captures to save some time. We grab ourselves 3 Murkrow on Route 7, a Gloom on Route 5, Ariados and Pikachu on Route 2, 2 Skiploom and a Chansey and a Friend Ball on Route 14. And with the power of vitamins, we also get our Tyrogue to evolve into a Hitmontop by having its attack and defense stat even when it hits level 20. Crystal wraps up Kanto with a Clefairy from Mount Moon, 2 Slugma on the bike path, as well as a Corsola and a Quillfish with our new Super Rod. Before heading back home to Johto, we cash out at the Celadon Game Corner for a Porygon that will be evolving later. Back in Silver, we use the 3 rare candies that we found throughout our playthrough to immediately evolve our 3 Natu into Xatu. And we take on the last challenging bit of the run, National Park and the Bug Catching Contest. It's here that we catch our first Scyther and win the contest to get ourselves a Sunstone. Afterwards, we catch 2 Sunkern and promptly evolve the second into a Sunflora. We do the same over in Gold to get ourselves a Blossom. Now that we're back in Johto, we head to Route 44 to fish up 4 Remoraid. We then use our rare candies to evolve 3 of them into Octillery just like our Xatu. Crystal also returns home for a bit and gets lucky finding a 10% Lantern as well as a Chinchou back home in Newbark Town. We head into Mount Mortar to fight Kyo again for a Tyrogue that doesn't need to evolve. There's only a handful of encounters left, so we're going to start breeding so we can level up some evolutions. Crystal hatches a Cleffa, an Elekid, and 2 Totodile. Silver gets a Smoochum, 2 Scyther to cover our gender variants, and 2 Cyndaquil, while Gold hatches a Pichu, a Magby, and 4 Chikorita to cover the Living Dex and Meganium gender variants. We also bump into Entei while hatching eggs and immediately use our Master Ball to add it to the count. Gold heads back to Kanto to work on evolving more Pokemon and getting access to Mount Silver for a few more captures. During our time there, we evolve our Skiploom into Jumpluff, one of the Chikorita into Bayleaf, and our Chansey into Blissey. At Mount Silver, Gold catches 3 Sneasel, 3 Ursaring, a Misdreavus, and 2 Larvitar, which we trade over to Crystal for the boosted XP, since we won't get Tyranitar until level 55. With the 2 Larvitar in tow, Crystal takes on the rest of the Kanto region and evolves 3 Houndour into Houndoom, a Totodile to Croconaw, Slugma to Magcargo, and the first Larvitar into Pupitar, leaving us with 25 Pokemon to go. Silver gets ready to take on the Elite Four to level up the rest of our Pokemon and gets extremely lucky by running into Raikou, which just like Entei, we use our Master Ball on. The dogs really should have been a lot harder for this playthrough, as there's a whole process for hunting them down once you've seen them for the first time, but we just happen to be in the right place at the right time, and I'm honestly just not going to question it. We spend time on Victory Road and evolve our Cyndaquil, 3 Piloswine, as well as catching 3 Donphan. Needless to say, we cut it real close. After taking on our rival for the last time, Eevee evolves into Espeon. Gold took on the Elite Four a few more times to farm XP to evolve our 2 Megadium gender variants, and Crystal fought through all 8 Kanto gems to finally evolve our second Larvitar into a Tyranitar. Don't talk to me or my son ever again. We bred for a Larvitar since we evolved our 2 captures. All that's left is to trade with ourselves for a few final evolutions. I went ahead and transferred everything up to bank so I could trade with myself in Sun and Moon, as it's a lot easier to get the evolution items from battle points instead of hunting down 5% held item chances. But that gets us a Kingdra, a Slowking, Porygon 2, 3 Scizor, 3 Steelix, and 3 Politoed, bringing our total up to 170 different Pokemon. We're still missing 2 Pokemon, but they weren't included in these original games, so we'll be catching them in our Gen 3 run. And that's going to wrap up our Johto challenge. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe as I've got 6 more generations to go and you are not going to want to miss them. Let me know what you thought of the video and the series in the comments down below, or consider joining the community Discord. Streams have been on hold for a little bit as I've had some personal issues come up, but I have been working on this series in the background, and streams should be returning soon. I play a lot of different games as well as other things like TCG openings, but I'm always excited to be nerding out about Pokemon. Lastly, if you're taking on the OCD Dex challenge, there's a lot of links in the description down below just for you. Like I said before, these videos take a lot of time to put together, so thank you so much for watching until the end. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friends, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!